is Sanhedrin Lamed Daled. We're going to start at the bottom of 33b, 6 lines from the bottom. And today's daf is dedicated for Shmira for the Chayalim. That's all for this year. May there be no more captives, no more hostages, and Yeshua for Am Yisrael. So the Mishnah had said that Dinei Mamonos, when it comes to monetary case, everyone's allowed to, everyone can pipe in and offer a reason why they should be acquitted or not found not liable. So the Gemara says, everyone, Hakol v'afilu eidim, even witnesses. So if that's the case, even witnesses can contribute and say he's not liable. Name of Masnisin, Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda. You want to say that our Mishnah is like the minority position of Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, and not the Rabbanan? The Tanya v'eid echad lo yaneh b'nefesh bein l'schos bein l'chova. We have a brayso that says, and this is the Chachamim. They say one witness cannot testify, cannot offer evidence. One witness cannot offer an opinion whether to make him liable or not liable. So that's the Rabbanan. They say witness can't be included, but our Mishnah says a witness could. That's Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, who says ono l'schos ve'eno chova, that he can contribute to say he's not liable, but not to say he's liable. So you want to say that our Mishnah follows the minority opinion of Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda? That doesn't make sense. We don't follow minority opinions in anonymous Mishnahs. So Amar Papa be'echam and Talmidim. So no, when it says that everyone can contribute to say he's not liable, that would mean even one of the students who are there. The students don't have to be quiet in the face of the judge when they see something, and as it relates to a monetary matter, that Rav Papa says that what we're talking about is one of the students. That everybody says that he can contribute to say why this, in a capital case, why he's considered to be not guilty, and in a capital case, even the witnesses can say that. So the Gemara says, so that's what it means. My time with Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda. So what's the reason why Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda says that a witness on top of 34a? Why does he say a witness cannot pipe up and give a reason why he should not be convicted in a capital case? Why can't he give a reason why he shouldn't be convicted? The Gemara says, so Rabbi Yossi says he can. The Rabbanan say that one witness cannot give a reason why he should not be convicted. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda says he can because it's based upon the verse. He can give a reason why he should be acquitted. The Rabbanan, what's the reason why the Rabbanan say one witness cannot offer a reason why the defendant should not be convicted in a capital case? Because it looks like he may be biased in the testimony. Because why? Because if he's found to be impeached witness, then he's going to be executed. So he may be afraid, and so therefore he's going to say, "Oh, he didn't. Let me get this defendant off, so he's not convicted, and then I have exposure." Rabbanan Haila Mus my Darsh. The rabbis, what do they do with the verse that Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda expounded? They say no, that refers to one of the students who can he can pipe up. If one of the witnesses says, I have a reason why he should be meritorious by a capital case, well, we don't listen to him. And if one of the students wants to pipe in, how do we know we don't listen to one of the students? How do we know that if one of the students says, I have a reason to convict, we don't listen to him? So we don't want the student to convict, but we listen to acquit. So now we say that by a capital case, the person who we start in a meritorious manner, and the one who was speaking about him when they were arguing, was saying that he should not be convicted, he's not allowed to now change his mind and say why he should be convicted. So it says Rav, when did we say that he can't change his mind? That's during the deliberations. Let's say he was a defense attorney, he can't turn around and all of a sudden be the prosecuting attorney. But once they come to make a vote, how they are going to vote, that even the one who was being Muhammad Slus, he was like the defense attorney, he's now allowed to go back during the concluding remarks and him change his arguments. So the Gemara says Meisvei, but this is a contradiction because it says in the Bryce. So in Macharas Mashkimin that it says in the Mishnah that the next day everybody wakes up early, all the judges ubayim, and they come. Amazaka Omer Ani Amazaka. The one who had said that he was innocent says, I'm the one who said he's innocent. Umazakani bimkomi, and I stay in my place. Amachayev Omer, the one who was arguing for him to be convicted, says, Ani Amachayev Umachayev Ani bimkomi. I was one who was arguing to convict, and I remain in my place. Hamalamed Chova Hamalamed Tzchos. Then the one who was arguing for conviction can argue to be meritorious. But the one who was arguing to be meritorious, he's not allowed to come back and argue to convict. Now, since this is the next day, this is the time where they're announcing the ruling because it's the next day, and we see he's not allowed to change his mind. So this is a contradiction to Rav. So the Gemara says, according to your logic, according to your logic, weren't the judges go back the next day and also engage in deliberation? When we say he's not allowed to change his mind, that's only during the deliberations. When it comes to the concluding ruling, then they're allowed to change their mind. Again, the Gemara now wants to disprove Rav, because we say Tashman Damar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, he taught Echem Talmidim Shezika Umeis Rono Sokilu Chai. If one of the students was like a defense attorney, and he said, I have a reason why this person should not be convicted, and then the judge dies, we count him as though he's still alive. V'omei bimkomo. We look at him as though he's still alive, and we have somebody just like fill the place, but he has to vote like him. Why do we count his vote? Why don't we say he could have changed his mind? Gemara says, well, he hadn't changed his mind. Gemara says, is that really the case? That they send a message from Eretz Yisrael, and they said, according to Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, he is not like our Rebbe, so he does not rule like Rav. So the Gemara says, Ein Motzei. No, saying he is not like Rav. He is like Rabbi. He is not like Rav. So there's no problem there. Tashma, again, the Gemara is trying to disprove Rav, who says they could change their mind during the ruling, but not during the deliberations. Gemara says, Tashma, Shnei Sofrei Adayanin, the two scribes of the judges, Omdin Lefneim, they stand in front of the judges. Small, they to the right and to the left of the judges. And they write down the words of the defense attorney and the not a defense attorney. I'm saying defense attorney, but it means the judge who's arguing for him to be meritorious, and the ones who are arguing to convict him. I understand why they are arguing, why they're putting down the words of the judge who is arguing to convict, because the machar chatu time machrina. And maybe the next day, one of the judges will want to give a different explanation. And if you're going to give a new explanation, there's a rule that once you give a reason why to convict, you can't convict right away. You have to remain it overnight. So therefore, you have to write down the reasoning. It's what's called halonistin. You can't rush into the court, into the ruling. And the one who's arguing the words of the judge who's arguing to acquit, my time, what's the reason why you need to write it down? Isn't it because we're not going to allow him to come along and convict? And Gemara says no. By the way, if you need to go, it's fine. I don't want to keep you here if you need to go. So the Gemara says, no, it's not the case. It's Kadesh Yomer Shnayim Tam Echad Mishnei Mikros. No, it's because we don't want to have a situation where we have each one cites a different verse for the same reason. And if each one cites a different verse for the same reason, we only count it as one vote because they're mutually exclusive explanations. And so therefore we want to know exactly why the person is coming to his opinion. So maybe we only count these two different votes as one vote. Kedebaimine Rav Asimi Rav Yochanan. Amr Shnayim Tayam Echad Mishnei Mikros. If two people said one reasoning, but they had two verses, what would be the law? We only count them as one vote because they're mutually exclusive. What's the source? Rabbi Damakra, because it says Achas. It says in the pasuk in Tehillim, Achas Diber Elokim Shtayim Zu Shemati. God spoke once, I heard two. Ki Oz Leilo. Mikra Echad, one verse, Yotzei Kama Tamim, one verse can go out to many reasons. Main Tam Echad Yotzei Mikama Mikraos, but one reason cannot come out from multiple verses. Each verse can teach us multiple things, but one thing cannot be taught from two different verses. And so therefore, if you have two verses teaching and we only count it as one vote. The Bei Rabbi Shmuel Tana Ukapatich Yifot Eitzel, like a hammer, the rock will be shattered. Just like this hammer divides into like many different shards. So too, one verse can go into many different reasonings. So now the Gemara is going to give like 4 attempts, maybe 3, maybe 5, I forget exactly, to show what's the example of one reason coming from 2 verses, which is problematic. What's the example of one reason where there are 2 verses cited from it? So the first, the top 10. Amar Zvid, it says in the Mishnah in Zevachim, Mizbeach Mikadesh Esaroilo, altar can sanctify that which is supposed to go up on the altar. Anything that is appropriate to be burnt, even if it is found to be disqualified, once it goes up, it can't go down. And it says the ola on the fire. Just like an ola, if it was appropriate to go on the fire and it doesn't go down, even if it had become disqualified, let's say the blood spilled. Anything that goes up on the altar doesn't come down. Which Rabbi Gamliel says, Rabbi Gamliel gives a different explanation. He says it's based upon so basically, both Rabbi Gamliel and the Tanakama or Rabbi Yeshua are both saying the same explanation, that if there's something that was disqualified, they went up on the altar, it stays on the altar, it doesn't come down. But they cite different reasonings. Vitravayo my kamarabu psu, and they're both including something that became disqualified, that it had become disqualified in the courtyard, that if it went up on the altar, it doesn't go down. They're not arguing. Just one learns it out from Mokta Mizbeach, and the other one Hala Mokta. So that's the example. So the Gemara says no. In the end, they are arguing. That's not an example. The Katani Sefer, the next quote says, the distinction between them is the blood and the libations. And if they became disqualified, they don't go down because it's because they're able to go on. According to Rabbi Yeshua, they go down because they're not something that's burnt. They're just poured. So that's a distinction between them. Rabbi Gamliel says it goes up on the altar, so it doesn't go down. Rabbi Shua Yardu, because it's not burnt. Papa. So this is the example of one reasoning coming out from 2 different verses. Because the Tanya and the Bryce, Rabbi Yossi Omar Mitol Shenemar, since it states on the top of 34b, it says anything that touches the altar becomes sanctified. I might think Bain Rai, Bain Shein Rai, whether it is able to go on the altar or whether it's not, like honey or yeast, or a ram or a deer. I might think it's sanctified. No, sheep. It has to be something that's capable of going on. I've called Roy. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Ola. Ma Ola Rui, I've called Roy. So they both say the same thing. When one says it from the verse of Kavasim, one has the verse of Ola. Have a great day, Colby. Take care, my dear friend. Shkoyach on the Shachris. Vitravayo my kamatu. What are they both excluding? Psule. They're both excluding something that was a disqualified sacrifice that was never able to go on. The Marmaitzle makes Kvasim and Marmaitzle may Ola. That one learned it out from sheep and one learned it out from Ola. And so that's the same. That's the same logic, but two different verses. The Gemara says, "V'amar avada baraba." Oh, so maybe that's the case. The Gemara says, "No, it's not it because v'amar avada baraba." Oh, it's psula b'imel. There's a difference distinction. A bird, that became disqualified. The mind, the ma'aslei mikvasim, kvasim in of also will flow. The one who learned that from sheep says sheep, yes, but not the bird. Mind, the ma'aslei me also. The one who learned that from an would say it even includes the also. So third attempt, Elamar Ravashi Keditanya. It says, with respect to how do we know that someone who spills the blood of a sacred offering outside the altar, outside the temple, is liable for the severe penalty of kares? When it says Dam Yachashim La'eshahu Dam Shafach, that person has spilled the blood, it will be considered blood, and he gets kares. Have a great day, Moshe and Greg. Drives carefully. This comes to include Rabos as Azorik. This comes to include somebody who sprinkles the blood outside the temple. Give her Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva Omer Ozavach Rabos as Azorik, to include the one who is here. Moshe, can you get that also, please? Thank you, my dear friend. Shkoyach. So Rabos as Azorik. Have a great day, Moshe. Shkoyach. So Vitravayo Maikamarabu. So Rakiva says it comes to include the person who sprinkles blood. And what are they adding? They're both adding on that the one who sprinkles blood outside the temple is going to get kares. Mar mi dam yachashev, mar min ozavach. So it's the same idea, but from two different verses. Mar says it can't be. No, there's a distinction between them. If you slaughtered and sprinkled the blood of a sacrifice outside the temple. But Rabbi Shmuel, you're liable once. According to Rabbi Kiva, you're liable for two. Gemara says no, but even according to Rabbi Kiva, you're only liable one offering, not two. The Amakra Sham Ta'aleh Oasecha V'Sham Taseh. And Ravinu Rachmanu Kula. So no, that is the example because of that verse. So we see from here, both Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva admit that if you slaughter and you sprinkle the blood, you're only liable for one sin offering. And so therefore, both of them are learning the same idea from two different verses. And so I guess if you were counting up what will be the halacha there, and people are arguing, you would only count them as one vote, not two. Dine Mamo is done in Bayom. The monetary case we judged during the day and we completed at night. Its siman is Mishpat Mana Mata. Manani Mili, what's the source for the idea that a judge can conclude the monetary case at night? So the Gemara says, you could judge the people whenever you want. Meaning say even at night. Well, then the beginning also. So it means to say then you start the judgment during the day, you conclude it at night. Our Mishnah that says that you can conclude a monetary case at night is not like Rebbe Meir. That it says on their basis you should have, it says in the pasuk, go to the Kohanim, they'll decide every dispute and every nega sarat. What do the disputes have to do with the saras? We compare the saras to disputes. Just like tzaras, you have to look at during the day. It says ubayom eros, but the day he looks at the tzaras, the leprosy. Afrivim bayom. So too a dispute has to be at day. Managayim shalo besumim. Just like the tzaras, you can't be blind, and the kohen can't be blind is looking at it. Whatever the kohen sees. Afrivim shalo besumim. Also, the court cannot be judged by a blind person. Makish Negayim we're even, and we also compare tzaras to a dispute. Marivim shelo bekrovim, just like a dispute cannot be done by relatives. Av Negayim shelo bekrovim. Also, tzaras cannot be looked at without relatives. Marivim b'shlosha. You might think that a dispute has to be looked at by three. So too, Av Negayim b'shlosha. Also, the tzaras was with three. V'dinu memono b'shlosha gufo kol shkein. And we might make a logical argument If a monetary case is 3, it's for sure the body itself. Even one Kohen can decide to us. Even one Kohen can look at Saras and decide the case. There's an interesting situation here. Samya, there was a blind man. The commentary say he was blind only in one eye, but because you'll see it's relevant. He was in the neighborhood of Rabbi Yochanan. And he was a judge. He was a judge, a blind judge in Rabbi Yochanan's neighborhood. One more way, Rabbi Yochanan didn't stop him. He allowed him to do it. The Gemara says, how could Rabbi Yochanan do this? Rabbi Yochanan Mishnah. Does Rabbi Yochanan say the law is like the anonymous Mishnah? But tonight we learned in the Mishnah in Nida, everyone who could be a judge could be a witness. Son could be a witness, but not a judge. When it comes to include a blind person can be a witness, but not a judge. If he's blind in one eye, so how could Rabbi Yochanan allow the judge in this case who is blind? So the Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan stamach risa ashkach. He found a different anonymous Mishnah. It says Dine Mamano is done in beyond the Gomer and Belayla. Our Mishnah here, it says monetary case you start during the day and conclude it at night. And so therefore, since you can judge it at night, clearly you can judge while you're blind. I mean, I don't think that necessarily it should really follow, but that's what their argument is. So the Gemara says, Rashi says, a night is similar to a blind person. So that's why. The Gemara says, why are we relying on the anonymous Mishnah from our Gemara here and not the anonymous Mishnah in Nida? That should be the Trump Mishnah. That Mishnah should trump him. Why the Mishnah in Nida? Why does our Mishnah here trump the Mishnah in Nida? And Gemara says, we prefer the anonymous Mishnah from here because that's an anonymous Mishnah like the Chachamim. And Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim are arguing about this because Rabbi Meir is the anonymous Mishnah in Nida, which is, and so therefore we rule like the anonymous Mishnah here because it's the anonymous, because it's the Rabbanan. Our anonymous Mishnah here is more on point because it's written in the context of judges, whereas the Mishnah in Nida is less on point because it's not a tractate dedicated to judging. Rabbi Meir, what does Rabbi Meir do with the verse that says that you could judge at all times, meaning even at night? He means even on a cloudy day you could judge, even though you can't see afflictions, you can't see tzaras. You're not allowed to look at tzaras, not in the early morning hours, like when it's sunrise, and not in the late afternoon. Not in the house, you have to look outside, not on a cloudy day, because maybe it'll near a azav, because something that was dull is going to look strong. The low b'tzarayim, not in the late afternoon, something strong near a scale looks dull. So the Gemara says, what does Rabbi Meir do with the pasuk that says on the day you inherit you bequeath to your children? You might remember this. We had this sugya in Yesh Nochun. We had this in Baba Basra, the time about inheritance. Then the day you bequeath to your children. You bequeath to your children during the day, but not at night. So the Gemara says, you mean your children only inherit if you die during the day, you die at night, they don't inherit? That doesn't make any sense. No, the Gemara says, maybe you mean that when you adjudicate a case of inheritance, you only do that during the day. The Tanya by itself, mishpat. So it says, meaning to say, a person who gives a command to his children who's going to inherit, that has to be done during the day and not at night. The Tanya Vayov Neisrael Chukas Mishpat, that this will be a law for Bnei Yisrael. Ora Kol Parsha Kul Yos Din. So we learn from this. This is written at the end of inheritance to tell us that the whole parsha is compared to like a established law. Rav Yehuda Amarav, Rav Yehuda Amarav. Let's say 3 people go to visit the sick. Since they're a court, they can write it down. They don't have to be told. If they want, they could write down as witnesses, or if they want, they could be the court. Shnaim, if there are 2 people who go kosvin, they can write it as testimony, venos, and then they can't be a court. That's only during the day. But if it was at night, kosvin, they write it down, venos, and din, they cannot make it a court. Mishum da'avu edim, because they're just witnesses. And witnesses can't be a judge. I'm right in Achikaminah. So says Rabbi Nachman, that's exactly what I meant. Okay, we'll stop here, but I want to remind people that at 9:30 this morning, Benedict is doing his share on the Daily Mishnah.